It is a messy one out there, no question. We have snowfall from lake effect, and we have now a system coming in for the weekend that's going to bring us, you guessed it, more snow. I want to check in on the traffic conditions, of course, and give you an idea of what's going on out there. In terms of snowfall, Tom, we're going to be looking at rates here that are going to be pretty significant with these squalls continuing, and some areas may see an additional, say, 5 to 10 centimeters of snow from just the lake effect. As we head into this evening, though, things will change up. What's it like out on the roads right now, Tom? And the reason why Tom was mentioning that is because there's going to be lake effect snow and enhancement just off the eastern end of Lake Ontario. So from, say, Oakville, Mississauga, down towards Stony Creek, those areas stand to see slightly more snowfall than perhaps areas like Toronto on the north side of the city because of the enhancement from the lake. The biggest snow on Saturday, lingering on Sunday. It dries up on Monday, but it's still cold. Sunshine, -7, and then a 0-degree reading on Tuesday. Let's get you into your storm watch update because we do have some bands of pretty decent snow coming through southern Ontario. There are two things going on. We have some lake effect, some squalls, and in some cases, it's unofficial, but we think that up into the midwestern portion of Ontario, some areas have seen over 100 centimeters of snow. Okay, so we still have some squalls to contend with. If you're traveling around southern Ontario, you can expect more of that throughout the day today. Keep in mind, there's also another low-pressure system brewing in the U.S. That's going to bring the system snow by tomorrow. So the weekend winter storm from this evening and through the weekend, we're going to actually see some enhancement here around Hamilton, through Stony Creek, through the Niagara region, and possibly Mississauga, Oakville. Those regions with an easterly wind off Lake Ontario are set to see enhancement. So the totals could be a little bit higher in those regions, perhaps, than with the overall system moving through. Suffice it to say, we've got snow in the forecast, no question about it, as we head through the overnight. So big snow on the way for the weekend. That could hamper your travel plans. And if you have photos and videos of the impact of the lake effect or the storm that's incoming, you can send it to us at upload.theweathernetwork.com. As we look into the weekend, but it's going to be coming from a different source, the system snow versus the lake effect and the squalls that have been continuing. 7-day forecast in Toronto. Watch for about 5 to 10 centimeters. I talked about the enhancement on the east end of Lake Ontario. So if your travel plans take you down toward Hamilton, you're probably going to run into more snow than if you're heading up into North Toronto. Sunday, the snow continues, -6, -7 on Monday with some bright sunshine. Again, Hamilton, if you're going to Lime Ridge Mall, for example, versus Yorkdale, you're probably going to be running into a bit more snowfall as we head into a Saturday. The snowfall continues on Sunday, and today is Friday. That means that it's top 5 day, the top 5 Canadian coldest days in southern Canada.
Ravenhurst.
This is Storm Watch here on the Weather Network. We've got some squalls continuing across southern Ontario. Want to bring you the latest information with Tom's traffic in just a moment to get you set up with what we've been experiencing in terms of the roads and the impact that it's having on your drive. Certainly, big snow has been had across the province. In the last many days, squalls have continued. From time to time, they're shifting in direction. There is actually a snow squall warning actually for Huron-Perth, so that includes Stratford and Mitchell under a warning. Otherwise, we're starting to see things drop in terms of warnings across southern Ontario only because we have a shift in wind direction. That has happened already. Now we have winds from the north, pretty much in this section north, so including Toronto, but they're still westerly down toward the Niagara Peninsula, down toward Niagara Way, Hamilton, as well as Kitchener-Waterloo. Look at that big band coming through. So, Tom, this is causing obviously problems on the roadways. We need to be mindful of our driving habits for today and even heading into the weekend. We will, by the evening, still be in snow, no question. But the interesting thing that's developing is that there's a low-pressure system from the States, and that's coming in. This is the first significant system snow that we've seen so far this season across southern Ontario. In general, it's going to bring 5 to 10 centimeters of snow, but there are some areas where we're concerned for more, and that would be with the east winds off Lake Ontario, enhancement on the east, the west end of the lake, so 10 to 15 centimeters plus. in these regions versus Toronto and points north. You get a break up into Parry Sound, and Bracebridge has been getting so much snow as of late. There's a break because the winds will be shifting direction. We'll be getting the northwest off of Georgian Bay. That's where you're getting your snow squall bands, and then we're going to see it taper off by tomorrow. 7-day forecast in Toronto. Big snow comes on Saturday, about 5 to 10 centimeters. So if you have to go out for shopping, for example, it'd be better to do so early in the day on Saturday versus late afternoon. Sunday, snow continues. Monday, still cold at -7, but at least the sun comes out by then, and then the temperatures stay at freezing for Tuesday.
Now this
Storm Watch coverage continues here on the Weather Network. Thank you so much for joining us. We are Canada's #1 source for complete and accurate weather, and of course our meteorologists behind the scenes are taking a very close look at the situation because there are two things going on. One is the lake effect and the squalls that continue. We've had them now for many, many days. It's been a multi-day lake effect event. And now we have a synoptic system. We're seeing in excess of 170 centimeters of snow. Okay, so there still are some warnings in place into Huron-Perth. So if you're in Stratford, Mitchell, those areas are just getting hammered still with some squall activity. We need to be mindful of it all throughout southwestern Ontario for that matter, though, because as we can see from our radar, you can see that that band is very, very strong, but there's still snow all throughout. In most of these cases, the winds are still from the west. They're now switching direction from Toronto and points north. The winds are actually coming in from the north, and eventually we'll see them coming in from the east, and there will be enhancement with our approaching system coming in. Turn it over to Tom, who's going to show us what's going on the roads, what kind of impact this is having. Tom, what's it like out there? Well, taking a look, the winds will be shifting direction to the east as this low pressure system approaches. I don't know if you can see it, it's very subtle, but there's a slightly darker tinge there. That's the enhancement from Lake Ontario that's expected. Everything moves out by about late day Sunday. We'll be left likely with some more squalls behind it, and the snow totals will be highest in Hamilton through Stony Creek, essentially on the west end of Lake Ontario with the east winds and the good fetch over Lake Ontario. In terms of shopping, I know tomorrow this weekend will be a big shopping weekend. If you're in Toronto and you're, say, at the Eaton Centre or Yorkdale, you're probably not going to be seeing quite as much snow as if you're down into Hamilton, Lime Ridge Mall, for example. There will be likely a lot of snow in the parking lot by the time you come out. In terms of timing, I would definitely look at doing the shopping earlier in the day on Saturday versus later in the day when the system gets going. There will be some lingering snow on Sunday, -6, -7 on Monday, with bright skies ahead. Our Storm Watch coverage continues here on the Weather Network, and of course all of our platforms are focusing in on the storm that is approaching southern Ontario. So if you want to go online at theweathernetwork.com and share those articles with friends and family who may be impacted by this storm coming in, and of course keep up to date with updates here on television, we're going to be on top of this. Our meteorologists are continuing to look at the model data as it pours in to see whether or not we see any changes, be it in the forward motion of the storm, very sound, but shoveling. People are shoveling a lot. Snow blowers are out in full force, no question. You need your Troy builds today, that's for sure. Back into Huron-Perth, we've got snow squall warnings in place. So Stratford, Mitchell, those areas are still under the gun. We can see this big band of snow activity just to the north and west of London. But overall, it's more of a westerly wind across southern Ontario, and the winds now have shifted direction. They're from the north in Toronto. It's not particularly, terribly windy at this point, but the snowfall is causing problems on the roads. If you have photos and videos with videos and photos, and we love it because then we can tell our story better to you. Let's turn it over to Tom and find out what impact this is having on the roads. Tom, in terms of timing, I think if you have to get out and do some shopping, it's that time of year, I think the earlier part of the day would be a better time to do that than perhaps the midday and evening tomorrow around the GTA. There's going to be some enhancement from Lake Ontario. Some of these areas will see in excess of 15 centimeters of snow. There goes the system. By Sunday afternoon, we should be at least beginning to see that clearing. But with the east wind setting up by tomorrow, and on the west end of Lake Ontario, Hamilton, Dundas, towards Stony Creek, and possibly even through the Niagara Falls area, St. Catharines, 10 to 15 centimeters of snow, north side Lake Erie as well, along the 401 corridor. Yeah, this is going to be a problem for travel, certainly on Saturday is the worst of it, and then Sunday we'll have some lingering snow. Yeah, well, you might want to tune up the snow blowers. Just get it ready. There are going to be some areas that we'll see in excess of 15, 20 centimeters of snow with enhancement coming in off of the lakes, the lower lakes, by the time we get to our weekend system. For the time being, though, we're still on the tail end of the snow squalls. Look at what it looks like. I mean, I think this is just fabulous and beautiful. I mean, hopefully there's people that are venturing out and still supporting those local shops despite the snow. Snow squall warnings remain in place and watches as well through the listable area, Stratford especially, and Mitchell are some areas that come to mind where we're getting some decent snow continuing with that northwest wind off of Lake Huron. Some improvements are happening now up toward Georgian Bay, but it's slow going. We will see, again, a little bit more snow to come as the winds shift direction. Now they're coming in out of the north in those areas. So this shift of wind is happening all throughout the day. If you have photos and videos and want to share them with us, we'd appreciate all of your input. And we want to turn it over to Tom right now and find out what impact this is having on our roadways around the GTA. Tom? System is coming. Today is the day where we start to see the transition of the wind from northwest to more of an easterly. Then the system comes in. Snow, widespread snow all through southern Ontario. General amounts will be about 5 to 10 centimeters. However, with enhancement from Lake Ontario and a good long fetch, it's a long lake, and that east wind on the west end of Lake Ontario, we're concerned about places like Hamilton through Ancaster, Dundas, down towards Stony Creek, where we may see the highest totals, probably easily in excess of 10, but possibly 15 and 20 centimeters of snow. Even the north shores of Lake Erie could be a bit of a problem with all of that enhancement. 7-day forecast in Toronto. Toronto proper, downtown, seeing maybe 5 to 10 centimeters of snow, and certainly up into the north, into the suburbs, the same kind of totals, 5 to 10. Saturday's the big day. In terms of time, if you need to go shopping, I'd do it earlier in the day versus later in the day, because that's when the system really gets going and we start to get those accumulations picking up. Monday, -7 with sunshine in Hamilton. On Monday, we'll be looking at a -6. It gets a little bit milder on Tuesday, and then by next week, we'll be back into some more snow showers. Taking a look at Storm Watch, we're now beginning to see some winter storm watches posted from Environment Canada for the Burlington, Oakville areas, as well as Hamilton. So it's just the beginning of the weekend storm that is coming. That's why we're in Storm Watch, because there's a lot to be said about this being the first significant system snow for southern Ontario. Have we had snow? Yes, we have. Absolutely. In some cases, like off of Georgian Bay with those westerly and northwest winds that have continued for day after day after day. It's just been getting hammered with snow in those regions. In some cases, over 100 centimeters of snow. Not only there, also up into the Bruce Peninsula. So a lot of cottages up in this area, big time snow. Right now, the squalls are further to the south. Goderich would probably just be on the line of that. But down toward Grand Bend, Kincardine, Bayfield's in there, London and points north and west are getting really the worst of the squalls at this point. But we're starting now to see some watches for the incoming system for the weekend of the storm system that's approaching. So now we have the winter storm watches in place. This is no surprise, considering that we're expecting to see enhancement from Lake Ontario. With an east wind, the west end of Lake Ontario, as we've been talking about all morning, is likely to see the enhancement here, and that's why Environment Canada has appropriately issued the winter storm watch. Let's turn it over to Tom and find out what our drive is like today, and the system hasn't even yet arrived. It is going to be moving in, and by tomorrow, widespread snow all throughout southern Ontario. Big time snow in the watched areas right now, but there'll likely be warnings at some point, I suspect. It will be clearing out by Sunday, but it's just around this end here. So Stony Creek up toward Burlington, Oakville, Mississauga, those areas will be seeing the higher totals. Certainly, look at the travel, though, on the 401. That's going to be 10 to 15 centimeters of snow. Salters, Sanders, yeah, it's going to be certainly an issue for this weekend. December snowstorms in Hamilton. Look at these statistics since 1990. These are some of the totals that we've seen with various storms in December for Hamilton. So we could be approaching, maybe even breaking some records with that. In terms of Toronto, 5 to 10 centimeters of snow expected, and Again, you can see since 1980, these are the statistics. I don't know that we'll break any of these, but it looks to be, in general terms, about 5 to 10 centimeters of snow, especially Saturday. It's a nice busy day here at the Weather Network, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Our meteorologists are behind the scenes taking a look at all of the computer models as they become available to see whether or not we see any changes in the track of the low pressure system coming in from the U.S. or in the speed. At this point, we're confident that we're going to be getting a pretty decent dose of snow across southern Ontario, and so our storm watch coverage continues. Keep in mind, this low pressure system doesn't stop in Ontario. It moves into Quebec. It moves in especially for the Maritimes. In fact, some indication is that the Maritimes might even pick up more precipitation or more higher accumulations, I should say. So big time snow on the way there too. For us, there will be some big time snow. Environment Canada now has issued a winter storm watch for Burlington, Oakville, Hamilton, down into the Stony Creek area, and it's no surprise considering the east wind is going to be bringing us some enhancement in this area. These are the first watches with the incoming system, and we're likely to see more. We'll be on top of it, of course. We'll let you know on all of our platforms. But through this evening, the lake effect and the squalls that we've been experiencing, especially around the Goderich area and through Stratford, will ease, and then a brief break. Then the widespread system snow comes in. Totals here, 5 to 10 centimeters of snow for most of southern Ontario. But if you are along the 401, as many millions of people travel, around the north side of Lake Erie, down into Hamilton, through Niagara, upstate New York, a lot of people traveling there perhaps to do some shopping, cross-border shopping, 10 to 15 centimeters. In some places we might even exceed 20 centimeters of snow. So this is going to be big-time snow across these areas. December snowstorms of the past in Hamilton. The data since 1990 shows us that we've had at times in December 23 centimeters of snow, 22 centimeters of snow. And talking about lake effect, what is it all about? How does it develop? Here's Jacqueline with science behind the weather. And we have, Jacqueline was mentioning some of these bands can be in excess of 100 centimeters. We have actually seen some unofficial totals in that range, like in Bracebridge and up and toward the Bruce Peninsula. Miller Lake comes to mind as an area. So storm watch coverage continues. If you the storm, as will all of the on-air personalities, likely over the next couple of days. 7-day forecast in Toronto. Big snows on Saturday. Early day would be the better timing, I should say, to get out and maybe do some errands versus later in the day. Saturday, Sunday, snow continues in Toronto. It's still cold on Monday, warms up a little bit by midweek next week, and then more snow showers by the end of the week for Friday in Hamilton and Toronto. Saturday, snowfall, again, rates in Hamilton likely to be higher than in Toronto. And then on Sunday, it lingers. Temperatures stay cold. It's brighter on Monday to start the work week. We'll be shoveling by that time. And Friday next week, we have some snow showers in the forecast. Stay with us. Our storm watch coverage continues. Thank you so much for joining us. I was just talking to one of our meteorologists behind the scenes here about the winter storm watch now that has been issued from Environment Canada for the west end of Lake Ontario. So including Hamilton, down toward Stony Creek, Burlington, Oakville, all included in this. This watch encompasses the system for, say, 10 plus centimeters of snow, maybe 15. But this, in the discussion at least of the watch, does not include the lake effect. So it is very possible and probable that we're going to be seeing in excess of 20 centimeters for this region. Just be warned of that. Overall, the system is going to be bringing 5 to 10 centimeters of snow. It's a widespread synoptic or system snow moving through southern Ontario. It is going to cause obviously problems on the roads if you want to travel to visit family and friends or you want to get your shopping done. There is going to be a lot of snow to come and problematic driving. We'll have our staff here giving you updates on the traffic all throughout this storm. And in terms of the enhancement with the east winds, a very good fetch across Lake Ontario because it's a long body of water. And the lining up of the wind is just perfect to see that enhancement in this region. So we'll be watching this area closely. In Toronto and points north, not seeing quite as much snow in those regions. So overall, we're going to be seeing a lot of snow with this. And of course, we're all about educating here at the Weather Network. So we're educating you on the storm, but we also want to educate you about the science behind the weather. Here's Jacqueline now with a really interesting visual piece on the different types of snowflakes. Have a look. Jacqueline is part meteorologist and part magician. Let's take a look at our 7-day forecast. In Toronto, big snow on Saturday. That's the day. And then Sunday, lingering snow will continue. It's still going to be cold. It warms up a little bit by Tuesday to about the freezing mark in Toronto. In Hamilton, again, watch for the enhancement from Lake Ontario, problematic driving. And then Sunday, some lingering snow, -6 is the forecast.